Empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. Shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men. Power Black men. Shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men to live extraordinary lives. Shatter the stereotypes. Shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men to live extraordinary lives.
Welcome to Shatter the Stereotypes, where the intention is to empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. This show is based on the simple idea that every Black man is capable of creating inner peace, dynamic health, great relationships, and financial abundance. Therefore, we provide insights and strategies to educate, motivate, and inspire Black men to reach their full potential and create the life of their dreams. So if you're ready for some high-octane motivation and inspiration that supports and empowers you to live the life you were born to live, get ready to shatter the stereotypes so you can build a life that lights you up and positively impacts the world. So now, let's shatter the stereotypes with your host, Coach Michael Taylor.
Hello and welcome to Shatter the Stereotypes, where my intention is to empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. You see, there's never been a shortage of Black male role models. There's only been a lack of exposure of those role models in mainstream media. So my intention is to showcase and highlight Black men who are doing remarkable things in the world. But my guest tonight is a Black woman who is also shattering Black male stereotypes by producing a powerful new documentary titled Profiled, The Black Man, which is currently showing on the Disney Plus network. Her name is Nia Wesley, and she is a journalist and producer who focuses on documentary projects that amplify the voices of unique subcultures and marginalized groups. And I definitely want her to define what that means later in the interview. So I'm super excited to have her on the show. So without further ado, let's give her a warm welcome. Hello, Nia. How are you?
I am well. I am well. And really, really quick, it's on Discovery Plus, not Disney Plus.
Did I
So
say Disney?
I think so, because they both have plus on the end.
Okay,
But
Discovery
I just want
Plus.
to make sure they go to the right place.
Absolutely, Discovery Plus. My bad. Thank you for clearing that up. So how are you?
Been good. I work so much. So it's like just coming up for air. I'm excited about all the conversation this is garnering across social media and just person to person after they watch it. But more than anything, it's like I want for Black men to feel that hug, that love letter that, they rarely get, and that we see you and we love you, we rock with you, we appreciate you. Obviously, we live in a patriarchal society, so they do have advantages. But as far as Black men, not comparing to the experience of women, you know,
Right.
giving them that love letter and that we love you.
And it is a powerful love letter, and we're going to talk about that. But before we do, let's just jump in with a few icebreakers so we can get to know Nia a little bit. So first of all,
Oh,
tell us where
oh,
you're
I'm
from.
nervous.
Tell us where you're from.
I'm from Houston, Texas.
All right.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about your family, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
My family. Um, oh, I have my mom and my dad. I have two brothers.
Okay.
They're all back in Houston. My parents were both educators. So it's very household. I mean, my dad was a principal and my mom was a teacher. So, you know, I'm not going to say military, but we lived in a very disciplined household. But I've always been just a wild card. I'm my mother's child, but I feel like I have the best parts of both of them. So, like, I have my dad's charisma, charm, personality, not to brag. But my mom, I have her brains and just her. Both of my parents are funny though. Like one is not funnier than the other.
Got
Actually,
it.
my mom might be a little funnier. But I get definitely. I'm such a goof troop. My friends always tell me I should do stand up, but big family, no filter, everything out on the table. We love hard. We fight hard, but we love. It's only because we love each other.
Great.
Uh, but I
So
have a huge family back home, and we all aim for the stars. My brother's, he's an attorney. My little brother, he is in college in New York, and I'm out here on the opposite coast doing my thing. So, yeah.
So may I ask if you're single, married, or complicated?
Oh my God, I am single. Yeah, I am mingling. Did have a little surprise Valentine, but just someone I'm getting to know.
There you go. Now, I'd like you to name a woman who's inspired you to be who you are.
A woman? I would probably say my aunt, my mom's big sister, my aunt Sissy. I think since I was little, like I just adored her. Like she was always like just coming in on the phone. She always had a nice car and like, she had a powerful job. She was a boss. She still is, but she's just a boss. And she's herself doing it too. So I'm like, I just always adored her. And I remember I wrote papers, person that inspires you the most. So I was like, it always goes back to my aunt Sissy. She was one of my first biggest inspirations.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So name a man that you look up to and admire.
Definitely my dad. Definitely my dad. I mean, he is just, we're all big walking contradictions in life, I like to say, but he's a big just ball of like love and overflow. That's where I get that from him. But he's always ready to do something new. He's not scared of anything. He's just constantly reinventing himself. Like I just pray that I'm like that, like forever, and like just don't get complacent and like, well, this is the life I'm gonna live. Like he's always ready to just try something completely different. So my dad, my uncles, just I come from such a well-rounded family. I'm so blessed, but I had so many great examples to look to, and each generation is just going bigger. So, we have big shoes to fill across the board on both sides of the family.
And interestingly enough, I had your dad on my podcast a couple of weeks ago.
You did. You did. I'm trying to. Yeah, I think. I don't know. I was raised in a family full of women. The women, like they all married everybody, but the women, it was so many because my mom has all sisters, and it's like just those were like mom number one, mom number two, mom number three. So it's just I was always surrounded by strong women, smart women, brilliant.
Yeah.
But they speak their mind.
Good. Now, I'm going to make an assumption here, but as a journalist, I would assume that you like movies. So name one of your favorite movies.
One of my favorite movies?
Yeah.
I would have to say Drop Dead Gorgeous with Kirstie Alley and Kirsten Dunst, Denise Richards. It's like a dark comedy, very sarcastic. It's basically about a beauty pageant, and one of the moms is really like obsessed with her daughter winning, so she like murders the other pageant members.
Oh my
God. It's like a comedy. It's horrible. It's one of my all-time favorites.
Now, if I gave you a magic wand, and with this magic wand you could create anything your heart desired, what would your life look like 5 years from now?
Oh, that's a good question. Because I've been manifesting seriously. So I do a lot of visualizing of my life. 5 years from now?
Yeah.
I would definitely have several successful shows on air, multiple seasons. I would have gotten a documentary out that I really, really, it just needs to happen. And it's just in a PowerPoint right now. I would have a script written for some sort of television pilot or a film, just like a script in my pocket. I would be in love, madly in love with someone. I don't know. I definitely would want to get some investments going by then that are growing. I don't know. Just having healthy relationships, being good, not fighting with my siblings, and, just good vibes across the board.
You mentioned that you wanted to start your own streaming service one day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So tell us about that dream.
I mean, I can't say too much because someone might swagger jack
There you
uh,
go.
my idea, but I don't know. I think what's I'm just thinking toward the future, and it's what would be the best utilization of all of my talents that God gave me. You
So
know,
would it be
Um,
like a Netflix streaming service kind of thing, or
I think it would be kind of a mixture between, and this you really have to be careful, so people will steal your ideas of
right?
Netflix mixed with like live television.
Oh, okay.
So you have some aspects of like a CNN type of format, but mixed with you can watch any program you want at any time. But then there's also like a live thing happening. But I don't know. I have this vision that somehow it's gonna be either some sort of label, agency, maybe it's a streaming platform, but something with diverse talent, diverse stories, subcultures, but like you find yourself in all of them.
Cool.
And I'm like, it's kind of a big blob of an idea right now, but it'll get plumbed out one day.
There you go. Well, you know how it is. Set an intention,
Hmm.
move toward that intention, and make that a reality because you obviously have the talent.
I received that. Yeah, that's the mastery part is the
That's it.
carry through and the execution and just organization. It helps you get so much closer to that, which I've gotten way more into being more organized lately, like extremely organized. But I've noticed how much stuff I've been able to get done, and I'm like, I'm kind of crushing these lists, getting through
There you
these.
go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, there are some people who are optimistic about the future, while others are pretty pessimistic about the future. So, where do you fall on that spectrum between optimism and pessimism for the future in general?
I am blindly optimistic. It's like a blessing and a curse. I am always the one like, oh, like, we'll figure it out. This will happen. Of course, this all the good outcomes are gonna happen. I don't ever plan. There is no plan B because it's gonna happen. So it's a blessing and a curse. I tend to have one or two pessimists in my near corner somewhere that kind of bring me into reality, but I'm on the way other side of the spectrum.
There
So
you go. That makes two of us.
yeah.
My friends actually gave me a nickname. They call me Michael Happy Ass Taylor
Wow.
because
Yeah.
because I'm so optimistic and always smiling. So
Right.
now, with that being said, now I'd like you to introduce Nia the professional. So tell the audience what you do professionally.
Yeah, great icebreakers, by the way. Those are really thought provoking. Yeah, so I'm a producer. I also work in development. I work for a production company. And basically, I not only pitch and conceptualize new show ideas that we will push and pitch around town to different channels and streamers. I also produce projects that, I love the most. So I produced a show called American Gangster Trap Queens. This was a show they were already making when I got hired, but I got a chance to produce it. And it is just, the stories are just, they will blow you away. They'll make you laugh, cry, and be inspired at the same time. But you hear about these women that run these empires, obviously, black market, some sort of illegal, but we tell the life circumstances that landed them there. And by the end of it, every episode, I'm like, if this woman would have been born in the opposite side of town, she'd be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And it's like, we zoom in on who these people are. But it's crazy stories. So I produce and I develop, and it's unscripted. So it's documentaries, documentary series. Um, and yeah, so the goal is to sell shows, but also more than anything to make an impact, get people talking, shift the culture. And for me, it's just if I can uplift or inspire someone in any way, wrap it up in entertainment, then, I'm at peace.
Nice, nice. Now, you are a graduate of the university,
Mhm.
Texas.
Yep.
And so my son is also a UT grad.
Oh,
So
cool.
that's something we have in common. So I'm just curious, while in college, why did you decide to focus on journalism? What
You know,
was the appeal there?
in high school, I was on the newspaper team, and the very first article I ever wrote made the front cover. And then it's like, I loved public speaking. I had another class where I did persuasive writing, and I loved like speech and debate. Like, I wasn't on the team, but I would take the class and I'm like, I love this. So I felt like and I loved to write since I was a kid. The cards I would write my teachers, they would cry, or I would always have my work like featured in the library of like, whatever. I love to write and I love to talk. So I was like, I need to go into journalism. I need to go into journalism. I think that's a good route. And I studied journalism. I was trying to go into broadcast. And that's what I started my career in, I would say. And then this opportunity came and I was like, well, it's different, but it'll take me out to Hollywood. And now I realize I'm doing journalism, what I studied. I'm just doing it at an even larger scale. So, yeah.
Now, so in terms of journalism, I'm just curious. We've all heard the term, if it bleeds, it leads, right? And when you're talking about news. So I'm curious that as a journalist, do they teach you guys that stuff in journalism school or something? Why is it that our media generally loves to focus on negative stories?
Well, because it sells and they have to pay their bills. So yeah, like it's not gonna keep itself running, but in journalism school, it's like just about exposing corruption. It's about the true passion of what a journalist is meant to be for society as a service. And there's a difference between journalism and then you have other things. It's like people just clunk the media. That can happen. But the true journalists are fighting the good fight. It's a thankless job. You get attacked when you do wrong, but you never get thanked for all the good that you're doing for the community, keeping them informed, letting them know what they're up against. That's what the journalism school is about. It's almost like a crusade, like, especially like there's journalists. I mean, you throw your life into it, whether people that do undercover stories, people that are doing stories risking their life because they're the threats, if they're going up against powerful people, like it is something you throw your whole life into. And that was the passion that I have for journalism. And I always say I'm a journalist in anything that I do. That's why I have a passion for the lane of documentary and unscripted, because truth is stranger than fiction, for starters. But yeah, I think, but then once you get in like local news where I was for a minute, then it's like what gets the most shares? What's going to help them beat the competition of the channel? It's very competitive.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's very pageantry. It's a whole thing. Like I always say, I need to write a script on that. Like a news. I mean, I know I think they might have one about a newsroom, but just TV journalists, but like, it's crazy. I wish I could do a reality show on it, but it'd be hard to get the clearance.
So what was it like interning at ABC in New York? What was that like?
Oh, that was amazing. I mean, I was an intern, first it was, getting their dinners and stuff and just helping them help things go smoothly. But then I have to transcribe a lot of their interviews by typing, like type out transcription of the interviews. But the cool thing was you get to highlight the sections you think are the good sound bites. So then I would like go home, watch it in the news every night, and I'd see they chose my bites. And it's like I had an active role in what was going on world news. So it was amazing. Coming from Texas into New York, completely different universe, total shock. I was 21 years old and it grew me a lot. And I lived in Harlem. And it was the first time I lived around a lot of Black people. Like I had always lived around in more predominantly white spaces, at least like in school and stuff. We had Black friends in the neighborhood though. But it was the first time I was surrounded by a lot of Black people, and it did more for me than you would ever know. Yeah. And it was a special, special moment in my life. And I love New York.
Nice. All right. So now let's jump into the
people at ABC were amazing. Amazing. You learn from some of the smartest people in the business.
There you go. So let's talk about the reason we're on this call is your amazing documentary. So we're going to start, first of all, let me get this going here. so that we can actually play the actual. I'm going to play the trailer.
Okay, cool.
Let's see.
Skin is so oily. Sorry about that.
No problem. Like I said, the beauty of editing.
Awesome. I was like, I hope this is going to be edited.
Yeah, we can definitely clean it up. All right, so now I'm going to share my screen. I love technology when it works.
Me too.
And let's see, here we go.
Black men are beautiful.
Black men are magnificent.
Black men are innovators.
Black men are brilliant,
Compassionate.
Intelligent.
complex, resilient,
Critical.
Necessary.
Warriors.
everything. Cosmic, supernatural, cool.
I've always felt the perception of who we are is filtered through a lens of fear.
Still to this day, Black men are not able to just walk down the street without someone assuming that they don't belong there.
Stereotypes that have been put on Black men takes place in the newspaper headlines. It takes place on the television, and I think it's played a major role in the bias against Black men. It's an atomic bomb.
It's every day for us. Every single day. Put your hands out the
That's the narrative. I felt threatened. I felt afraid. If they got on handcuffs, they're still a threat because they're Black men.
Black men are not a threat.
Black men portrayed as dangerous has been inside of the fabric of American culture from the beginning.
Young Black boys in America, we don't get a chance to be kids for a long time. There's no room to emote with exceptions of anger.
Society would have you think that we don't love and really rock with our queens like that, and we do.
Most Black fathers are in the home. Well over 50% is a shocker to many people.
We are all living through a very painful time, and we must be able to talk about that.
I can't put into words how much I love this documentary. As I reflect back over the last 25 years or so of my life, I made a commitment back in 1995 that I was going to do something to change the mindset of Black men. And I wrote my very first book, Brothers, Are You Listening? A Success Guide for the New Millennium. And at times I felt alone and isolated with some of the conversations that I was having as a man who happens to be Black. And when I saw your trailer, I went, wow, this is my work. This is what I've been working towards for so long. And to see someone put together the documentary the way you have, it just inspires me to no end. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for putting this together. And I think it's amazing. I think it's so, the time is so right, I think, for this conversation, because we're all aware of all the negative stereotypes and negative stories about Black men. And this, as you mentioned in our earlier, is like a love letter to Black men, to inspire us and to challenge us, to really change our own inner narrative about how we see ourselves. So I guess the first question that I have, though, is who came up with the idea and how did the project get started?
Yeah, and first off, I'm so happy that we're able to cross paths, and I almost wish I knew you before, because I would have had you as an expert on there, because it's like, but everything happens for a reason, and hopefully we get season 2. But yeah, so just to go down memory lane, it was 2019 when Miss Tina and her producer brought us this concept. Trell Thomas, shout out to Trell Thomas. This is his baby, and it's just been an honor to see it birthed. But basically 2019, they called a meeting with us and to pitch the idea. And Miss Tina has a relationship with one of our executives where they have a familiar relationship. So it was, perfect when she's like, oh, I have this producer that really wants to do this project. And they came in. It was a great meeting, and initially it was like it was a documentary just showcasing Black boy joy, of just different Black men of all ages, and just very simple. And then we went back and forth for a while, just working on the idea, kind of combing out a format, and then we landed on what you saw of just we knew we wanted each episode to shatter a stereotype and find out where it came from. How did this exist? Really assess the brainwashing, because we've all been brainwashed, and including like Black people. Like, it didn't skip over us. And then kind of assess that, showcase regular everyday Black men around the world, not just in America, but globally, that are doing amazing things, shattering the stereotype with their life's work. So it was a matter of a few people's stories he had. And then we just kind of, looked around different stories that we found of men around the world that were doing amazing things. Some of them are personal relationships. Some of them were, different stories we found, whether it be magazine feature or they were featured in their local news. And then we did like further digging. But we found some amazing men that they'll make you laugh, cry, but more than anything, you see yourself in them, and you're going to see some amazing things overcome. But more than anything is to show what it is to be a Black man in today's world. And that's not just one thing.
Yeah.
It's not. And that's what we wanted to showcase a lot. Just watching the cuts in my bed at night in my PJs, you watch each rough cut that comes out. I find myself crying in the bed, just, like sobbing once you get to the episode about Black women and, their love for Black women. It's like, just don't believe everything you see on social media. Narratives get such, a hold over people, and the real numbers are the exact opposite. So we show literal statistics that showcase, especially the mental health. It's going to blow you away. I think it was like Black men suicide rates are like skyrocketed in a short amount of time. And it should be alarming to everybody. So we talk about mental health, and that you guys don't get the space. Obviously, Black people as a whole, we struggle with mental health stuff because of just generational trauma, but it's like women, we at least get some encouragement to at least explore it a little bit. Like, y'all don't get anything. Like, you can't even showcase that, and the level of unhealthy that is for yourself. We go deep. We go deep. And it needs to happen. I mean, I come from a household where my dad, luckily, I got to see him show emotion. We see him laugh, cry, but for a lot of people, it's just be strong. And it's, that narrative can do more harm than good.
Yeah, and my area of expertise is actually the changing roles of manhood and masculinity in society. And I've been speaking about masculine issues for, like I said, more than 20 years. Mm-hmm. And the real challenge is to get Black men to engage in this conversation about masculinity. Mm-hmm. Because as Black men, we have not only the masculine aspect to look at, but also the racial aspect of how we're perceived as Black men in conjunction with masculinity. So it's almost like two burdens we as Black men have to carry. And what I found interesting
W.E.B. Du Bois.
Yeah. But what I found interesting is I wrote a book called A New Conversation with Men. Mm-hmm. And in that book, I identified what I call the 5 illusions of manhood. Mm. And the first illusion is, to be a man, you must be non-emotional and disconnected. Mm. And so when I looked at your episodes, and I saw the one about Black men not crying, the fact that as men, we're conditioned from a very early age not to feel. Mm-hmm. We're taught that feelings are for women. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of men begin to suppress, repress, and deny their emotions. And it, in my opinion, is what drives, or shall I say, is the cause in a lot of cases of addictions and mm-hmm. depression and suicide. Mm-hmm. Because as men, we don't talk about how we feel.
No, and it's almost, once you enforce those brain pathways so young, they don't know. We don't know how. And it's like, you have to, it's not impossible, but you really have to take some steps and exercises. As just someone who grew up kind of swallowing a lot of my emotions, it's been a muscle I've had to build. And that's for me as a woman. So, for you guys, that's something we definitely want to see more of. Just getting people talking about it is the first step.
Absolutely. So I want you to break down the 4 episodes for us. So for those who have not seen it yet, so let's just break down, what's the first episode about?
So let me pull up the order that they're in, because we've switched the order so many times. So basically, Black Men Are Dangerous. That's the first episode that's out now. That dropped February 12th. And then we have 3 more episodes, and I'll go more deeper into the first episode, but 3 more episodes. February 19th, Black Men Are Absent Fathers. February 3rd, Black Men Devalue Black Women. February 26th, Black Men Devalue Black Women. And I'll go through these again later. And then March 5th, Black Men Don't Cry. So the first episode, Black Men Are Dangerous, and heads up, each episode is titled a lie that we're going to disprove the entire episode. So Black Men Are Dangerous, obviously that's a myth, but we explore the propaganda. We explore where it first came from. We go back to slavery, about being dehumanized, even before we even were brought to this continent, because, people were forcing themselves all onto the continent of Africa for hundreds of years before we even got to the US. But we go back, like, how did this even become a thing? Then we assess the psychology of like different studies that have been done, that people literally just think Black men are more dangerous on a psychological, animalistic level. It's been beat into us that much over so long as well. And just look at kind of how it's perpetuated. And then we meet people that are defying that stereotype in every way, and, changing the world in their own little way with what they're doing. So you meet some amazing people that will literally, stories that will give you chills. And, the first episode is great. I don't want to give away too much. And then the second episode that comes out on February 19th, Black Men Are Absent Fathers. We explore that myth. You'll learn that over half of Black men that are fathers live in the home with their child, more than 50%. And that's a CDC report. So, I grew up with my dad. Obviously, I think there's a socioeconomic aspect to explore with people that are out of the home. But unfortunately, socioeconomic is still tied with race a lot because of the structures at play. But we go deep. Like, how did it start? But how does it get perpetuated? Why does it happen? And showcase amazing fathers, non-traditional households of what you would normally expect, what different things of what it means to be a Black man and respecting different manhoods. But I love that episode because I'm a daddy's girl. So I'm like, there's so many amazing Black dads out there. And then the fourth episode is, that was the second. The third episode is Black Men Don't Value Black Women. And you have this narrative of, successful Black men being with non-Black women, and you see different things, celebrities, and sure, love is love, that happens. But, many people wouldn't know that 85% of married Black men are with Black women. Like, Black love is alive and well. And it's just like these narratives. Yeah, love is love. I have friends of all different colors of the rainbow, but just the narrative of us not wanting each other. There's this whole gender war conversation in the millennial crowd. You have the Kevin Samuels of the world, speaking to women degradingly, while talking about high value men. There's this whole argument, and it's not truth. Yeah. It's just Twitter battles. And it overtakes not only our relationships with each other because of the narrative, but how we look toward ourselves too. Like, that you don't think you're valued by your men, like we're undoing all of that and healing our relationship with each other. And then we show some amazing couples that just, oh my God, that tear jerkers. Oh my God. But you see some people that have been by each other's side through thick and thin. And some beautiful displays of love. I'm a hopeless romantic. So yeah, it's normal that I would cry. And then the last episode, Black Men Don't Cry. That's the episode that was probably the most disturbing to me, to know how many of you guys are suffering and you don't have the space to even talk about it, or you don't know how. And then, you talk about access. Mental health care is a total privilege. So it's like, God forbid you actually need some sort of treatment, and you to get access to it is great. But looking at Black mental health, and that, you said manhood, illusion of manhood. There's a number of people that said that literally to even tell a family member or a friend that they love them, that is tough. Because and I was just, to even wrap my head around that. And I was raised by a dad who always said, I love you before you leave the house, hang up the phone, anything. And that was the example that I had. But for a lot of people, and it's more of how we survived, I think, with how a lot of emotional things are handled in the Black community. But it's time to undo that. It's time to heal, and it's time to get out of survival mode. Because we're in a rhythm. And yeah, I could go deep on that stuff, but I'm happy these conversations are happening. Mental health is finally being taken seriously in this country. And so many things are going to change positively, but it's not just like something that doesn't exist, and everybody deals with it at one point in time.
Yeah.
And especially our Black men.
Right. So I'm curious though, as a Black woman, did working on this project change your attitudes and beliefs about Black men at all?
I mean, I grew up with all brothers, my dad, so I would say I think it widened some things I already knew, but it showed me how deep it goes.
Yeah.
And y'all need like a hug, like a real life hug. Like, and I think because we really do think y'all are okay.
Yeah.
And that's the part that was alarming. And it made me think about my own brothers. Like, I know we all go through stuff, but sometimes it made me think about them. Like, maybe that's affecting them more than and it made me, maybe you need to be a little more careful with how certain, because they may seem fine, but they're not.
Now, one of the things I loved about the film so far is a lot of times when you see stories or documentaries about Black men, I generally end up feeling angry or victimized. Whereas with this film, I felt empowered, I felt inspired, I felt extremely optimistic after watching it. So I'm curious, what kind of feedback have you started receiving from people who've watched it? What's the response been so far?
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, I need to still read some of the articles, reviews, because I'm just coming up for air from work. I mean, I just work to the last minute. Like, as much as I can crank out, I'm gonna try to crank it up, but I need to do a little bit of the reading. But I know just word of mouth, I mean, people loved it. I mean, they felt empowered, and they felt like my dad was like, ordered some bread, and there's a Black owned bread company we showcased. Don't want to give away too much, but you feel like you want to root them on, and you want to see each other succeed. Like, let's lift each other up. So that's definitely the tone we were going for. We were very big about no trauma porn. Like, it's already enough even talking about some of these topics, but we don't need to be seeing stuff that's just going to have you being too heavy, walking away feeling hopeless, or walking away with some sort of just like hatred for an oppressor. We don't want that. How can we move forward, move the needle, and the solutions that were listed at the end? like creating job opportunities, different things you can do to really eradicate what's been done.
Yeah. And again, what I loved about the film is that it didn't pound this racism. We know racism exists and all that, but it showcased some of the origins of where these stereotypes come from without bashing white people. It's like, so here's the system. We're going to explain to you how the system has set a lot of this in motion. But again, it didn't feel threatening. You know, it didn't feel attacking. It felt like, here's some information that you need to understand that, you know, Black men, yes, we have these challenges, and it's not just, you know, we aren't these stereotypes. So let's look at how those stereotypes actually got started. So that was one of the things I really liked about it. It didn't attack and blame. It shared information that's actually provided solutions.
Exactly. Well, and systems is the word, because it's like, you know, it's, you want to talk about notions. It's like, there's a lot of Black historians that will just think like the white man just has something about him that's inherently evil when you look at oppression around the world. But it's, when you talk about, you look at systems have been in place since the beginning of time. And there were people on this side of the system and people on this side of the system, and these things running this system. And systems can change, but this is how they're in rhythm, and this is how they're getting perpetuated. Capitalism was built off of the business model of free labor. Like, so I feel like explaining the systems, how it happened, how they're perpetuated, is where we should be focusing a little more of our time on, and making sure that white people are aware that you're an active participant in the system. How can you help dismantle? So that is kind of what we more so wanted to lean toward when it comes to statistics, because there's a lot of research, lots and lots, hours longs of research, but I enjoy researching. But yeah, these systems have been in rhythms, and they call them by different names at different times, but it's a lot of the same things still happening. That's the same, like, toilet system. That's literally what it is. Yeah.
So I'm curious. So as a producer, what's your job? I mean, you're saying that you were doing research. So were you helping put together the content? How does your job work? What do you do?
Everything. I always say, like, my job title is make shit happen. Like, that's pretty simple words. I have a million arms. Like, from when we had the idea, I helped comb out the format with the creator and the executive. We just constantly, like, maybe let's do it like this. Maybe let's do it like this. No, we need to be in a barbershop. No, they've done that. Like, bouncing how we want the format, combing out the segments, literally act by act, going back and forth with the network, because first we got a development deal. They don't really do a lot of shows straight to series anymore. It's like, we'll do a development deal, then we'll develop it together for a few months. Then we'll decide if we really want to buy it. Yeah, sometimes you can get through that and then they don't really want to buy it. But this was like a good example. So it was amazing working with OWN on this, just amazing, powerful women that were passionate about this as well. And making the pitch decks, sending it to Miss Tina, sending it around. They like this, they don't like this, change that. And then going and pitching it out to the Netflix, Hulu, Discovery Plus, OWN. Like, we got through all of that, and then OWN did the development deal, and then they eventually greenlit it. But it was an amazing process. This was actually the first show that I ever developed, sold, and saw through to air. So the full process. I just got into Hollywood in 2019. So I'm still very new to this, but it's a lot. And then, like, on the other show I do is documentary, like, female leaders of organized crime. That's a roller coaster ride. Like, it's, you know, I do interviews with people in prison, and I have to get into people's heads, and, you know, and then locating victims and convincing them to talk about the worst moment in their life on national television. Wow. Global television now, because everything's streamer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot. I can keep going, but negotiating deals, talking people down. It's a lot. Get people in the interview chair, make it happen, organize how you want the show to be, and stay on a budget.
Yeah. And so OWN, what was their role in this? So you sold it to OWN, and then OWN puts it on Discover. How's that work?
Yeah. So Discovery Plus owns OWN. So there's so many conglomerates now. So they own OWN, TLC, Discovery Channel, I think Animal Planet. It's like a conglomerate. So all of those channels can have their show go on the streamer. And I think they're trying to really build up their streamers. So they're doing the premieres on the streamers. And then they'll put it on OWN sometime later this year. We don't have a date yet.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you do a show like this, I'm curious in terms of after the series is over, you do your 4 episodes. Does it get syndicated so that other places can showcase it, or how does that work?
I'm learning along with you. Honestly, I think there's, if a certain channel or conglomerate wants to buy it, that can happen.
Okay. For
the right price, and they make it theirs. You see different shows float around different platforms, so that can definitely happen. But God willing, we get a season 2 and we do Black women, and then we get a season 3, we do Hispanic males. We get a season 4, Hispanic women. Let's see the rainbow, and let's get to the root. They have very harmful stereotypes, Asians, that need to be debunked.
Yeah.
And that's harmful to their existence. So that would be the pie in the sky.
So would that ever be something that would be available like on Blu-ray that people could buy, or?
I think that might be going out. I really do. It's just going to be more streamer built into the TV. These smart TVs, you can just search for whatever, then it'll tell you what app you need to download to watch it.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's more of the future. But I think people should still be able to rip things off onto a CD. I think you can still do that. But I think they have Blu-ray. I don't know if we're releasing Blu-rays. I could look.
Well, the reason I say that is, I'm wondering just how many people are on Discovery Plus.
Right. It's so new. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wanting to think, so how can we get this so more people see it?
I think they're trying to plan streamers, if you watch parties, if you have members of boys clubs, 100 Black Men, those types of things, if they could host streamers, and that's what we're setting a few up, but I really need to get with one of them and make sure we try to do one with every 100 Black Men chapter. I feel like they would each, the major cities, as much as you can, show it to people, send it to people. There's a free trial option.
Right.
Just do that. Wait till the 4th episode comes out. You can watch all 4. And so, interviews like this. So, SEO purposes, just make sure you have the title somewhere in the caption of the show. So then when people are searching certain things, and I'm sure you use all these tags, Black men and stuff like that.
Right. And make sure you don't say Disney Channel instead of Discovery Plus.
They sound the same, D+.
Oh, man. So I just now want to just say thank you. Because as mentioned, this is my life's work. And I don't feel so alone in this work, trying to empower Black men, and having people like yourself who are working to shatter the stereotypes, to let the world see who we really are. It just means a lot to me personally, and I'm so glad that you took the time to share on my platform, because I'm going to do my best to share it with as many people as possible. But I just want to now give you an opportunity just to kind of, as we start to wind down, because time flies when you're having fun. I just want to give you an opportunity just to, from your perspective, all of the Black men within my organization, what would you say to them about why they should watch this documentary?
I think you should watch it because you'd be surprised. You would think that we're just trying to get this out to the world for like non-black people to like learn, but it's even for us. That inner narrative that you mentioned, that's going to affect the entire trajectory of your life. And if you can kind of become aware of some things that are holding you back that are not your fault, I just believe that you can become unstoppable and live the best life you can live. And like you said, when you watch it, you've walked away feeling empowered. You had a stir. That means we've done our jobs. And like I said, it's a big love letter to Black men. And I feel like you guys don't get that all the time. You know, um, you might get like some physical attention, but as far as like, we love you, I think that another notion is it's okay not to be okay, and you're not weak. That's human. We've been dehumanized for centuries, and we have to also realize we are human and have self-compassion and patience with ourselves, and different notions that were never a thing for Black people because we just had to survive. So it's like when I say we go deep, we go deep. And but you walk away feeling empowered. So yeah, that's what, definitely check out Profiled, the Black Man on Discovery Plus.
Well, again, this whole platform is based on the intention of that documentary. The intention is to shatter the stereotypes. And that's my message. That's what this whole platform is about. And this documentary has done a beautiful job of shattering those stereotypes and providing you with some tools and information that can support you in changing that inner narrative, because that's where it begins. That's what this whole platform is about, helping us change our inner narratives about how we see ourselves, because we know what the media is going to put out there about us. Mm-hmm. And I love what Tyler Perry said when he said, stop fighting for room at the table, build your own table. And I think that really applies to Black content. As Black folk, we have to create our own table. We have to create our own content. And so once again, this platform is my way of building my table for Black men to support, to empower, to transform their lives, to support them in changing their narrative so they can create extraordinary lives. And this particular film supports me in that mission, and I absolutely love it. So with that being said, Nia, I just want to now give an opportunity for any closing thoughts you might have, just whatever's on your heart to share with the audience.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. This was an absolute blast. And I feel like it's all of the work was worth it. You get through the end of a show and you're like, oh, I can breathe, but it's like, oh my God, you remember that passion when you first got the idea, in your hands. And it's like, it makes me feel good, the warm and fuzzy feeling when you know people are really being impacted by the work. But I'm happy that I was able to be a part of this platform today, and definitely check it out. Tell 2-3 friends about it. Send it to a Black man that you love. And just Black men, live your life. Be you. Even if that is someone that your family doesn't agree with, whether that's, not something you see constantly, be who you are, live your truth, get mental health care across the board, Black people of color as a whole. Generational trauma is a thing, even if you haven't been through much. It's like, it's in our bones, what our ancestors went through. And you'd be surprised how many different ways it shows up and you don't even know it. But I don't know. I love us for real. So
Beautiful.
That's about it.
Beautiful. So last question. Mm-hmm. What's next for Nia?
Next for Nia, everyone keeps asking me that. I'm like, I can't. I'm moving silence. You just have to wait until I make announcements. So I don't like to give any clues as to what that is. But there's some big things moving, I will say, where I mean, it's gonna blow you away when it hits the screen. So I can say that.
Fantastic. Well, if there's anything I can do to support you in that, don't hesitate to contact me.
Yes. Oh my God, I was there season 2. You already know. Expert Michael Taylor.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
It's been a pleasure to meet you, though.
Yeah, thank you so much for your work. Thank you so much for this amazing documentary. And again, for all the viewers out there, make sure you see this film. Profiled, the Black man. Doesn't get any clearer than that. Take a look at it. Again, share it with your friends. I'll have links on my website to this particular interview if you want to share this with others. Again, let's get the message out there so we can empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. So we'll see you next episode. Nia, thank you again for everything.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This was a blast.
Take care.
Peace out.